call the meeting to order Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, 7 p.m. And the first thing is to go over the rules. This is a hybrid public meeting. If you're on and you get if you step out of line, then we'll ask you to leave, or we'll just shut you off. Same thing here.
So you gotta be careful.
In addition to that, if you do want to say something, please raise your hand. If it's during the audience, a citizen, or you are a subject matter expert, you could be called upon, and just please state your name and your address. So next, pledge of allegiance, please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So approval of the agenda. I'm sorry, I have to add a Board of Selectmen November meeting date change. When we set back in December last year, when we put the schedule together, we all thought that election day was on the first Tuesday of November, but it's not. It's on the 8th. So we scheduled our Board of Selectmen meeting for the 8th to take care of the first. We need to move it back to the first. So I need to add that to the agenda. So I make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of adding new business 7.3, Board of Selectmen November meeting date schedule change. All those, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Great. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes from October 4th, 2022. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of minutes? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Audience of citizens. Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry, Mary, I'm sorry. Mary, please.
I'm glad we can enjoy some levity. Hi, I'm Mary Russell, 34. Question first, and maybe comment on the proposal. I noted on new business tonight that you'll be addressing projects related to the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, which I presume will be the second half, because there was first 2021 and then the 50% for 2022. Is there a process similar to last year, or did I miss that process already, related to the selection of those projects or making proposals relative to the American Rescue Plan and the allocation of funds?
We're not supposed to have questions, but we'll cover that in the meeting. Great.
Relative to that, being I didn't miss something, I do have a proposal to make that I think would be appropriate to the criteria of that particular act. I don't know if you can hear that proposal now, or if you want to hear it in new business.
We will wait till new business, and I'll ask you to lay your suggestion, the proposal out to us before we get into any discussion of a list.
Okay. Would you like copies of the proposal now?
No, because I think it'll take away people's attention. They'll want to look at the list,
Okay.
the proposal. So let's wait. Please.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else in the chat? Don't see. Okay, thank you. Old business. Okay, so discussion for authorization to apply for the Commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services for the Indoor Air Quality School Construction Grant. So last week, Friday, we had a meeting, Mark and I, with Titan Energy, with Maria, our superintendent, the facilities manager over there, Mike Sylvester, and our building director, Jason, thank you. And we kind of went through some different things. We talked about what the school, what their projection was for the future. They don't really know. They're talking to the Board of Ed. They do know that they have to remedy the air quality and the humidity in the southern wing here on this side. The one they had to shut down because of the mold that was growing in there, and they've had to do that before to be able to eradicate and get the moisture out and stuff. Whatever they've done, it's not working. So for this motion, I'm asking, because we don't know the feeling of the Board of Ed, but the request from the superintendent is we go after this year's December 1st grant. In saying that, I will put forward a motion for us, the Board of Selectmen, to approve the route of authorization for the superintendent to be able to put together the preliminaries of applying for the grant. That means coming up with schematics. That means coming up with whatever we need for how what's going to change it. Is that the electrical situation over there? Titan Energy is going back through the files. Apparently, we changed from 1200 to 600 amp power, and then based on the solar, and we need 1200. It's a lot of different things. So the bottom line is the experts, I'm allowing them, asking them to do it. They're doing it because they were our consultants on the solar before. They're bringing us a solution there. There's a lot of different variables to this. And in the end, we still don't know what the the Board of Education wants to do for the school. We do know that we have to do this wing, the one that has an upper and a lower, and they're looking to handle the air quality in there, where we're going to use that again. They talked about seeping, the walls seeping, and to me, and then we heard that it was years ago that they did some excavation to try to eradicate some of that. And at the time, it might have been the best thing, but now, in talking to our building official, there are some other things that should have been done or are now available to be done to capture the water before it hits the foundation and drive it away from the building. My concern is if when you have water seeping through concrete, it diminishes the efficacy of the concrete. And I don't want somebody to go over there with a little rock hammer and go, okay, we got to replace this whole place. We're not there yet. Let's not get there. So in saying all that, I'm going to put forward a motion. We talked to the town attorney, and it's going to cover a couple of things. We're going to ask that we allow the Board of Ed to allow the superintendent to put forth the workings of an application for the grant. That will include having somebody come in and do the schematic drawings and the outline specifications for the HVAC indoor quality that's going to need. And then we're going to have to try to start to put together a building committee. And this has to be done before December 1st. There is one caveat. If they decide what they want or what they need and get the price on this, we will have to set a town meeting to be, because the grant stipulates that we have our money in place in hopes that when they look at all these grants, they will match 48% grant to the town. So it will cost us 52%. That's what we know right now. I know. I understand. I don't have a lot of more answers.
Why is this Board of Selectmen issue. Has the Board of Education weighed in on this?
The superintendent has, I don't know if she's met with the Board of Education. The reason that the Board of Selectmen are involved in this, because in the grant, it stipulates that the town elected officials. What the
Have
town,
to authorize the
but
superintendent.
they didn't say elected officials, they said the town's legislative body, I believe is the word, legislative body, so we figured, and it lays in our lap to get this going.
Plus the building belongs to the town.
But
That is correct.
Normally, the Board of Ed would instruct the superintendent what to do. It's odd that the state in this grant authorized the Board of Selectmen to instruct the superintendent.
Not authorized, told us,
We're to let it
town's
say
legislative body.
And the legislative body, eventually you have to have a town meeting for all this, because that is our legislative.
It is the legislature.
Right.
body. So, and if this project goes over 500,000, we would have to have a referendum based on the charter. So the board and the town meeting can authorize up to 500,000, over 500,000. Right.
So we're voting on to allowing the Maria to apply for the grant, which will encompass doing all the research to be able to figure out what would work,
Yes, basically.
basically.
Yeah,
But
More than
eventually,
that.
it still needs a town meeting.
And then when she has this ready to go, we will have a town meeting that comes into a point where, well, we're gonna have to do one win anyway. And the other question was, what she said was, we don't know if this grant's gonna be there next year. I don't know why we were waiting. So we're waiting because that was our direction when it came to us. So I'm going to make the motion. I'll read it. We'll discuss it. Okay. Okay, the duly qualified elected voters of the town of Columbia. And any other persons titled to vote, well, this is again. All right. I make a motion that the town of Columbia hereby authorizes the Columbia Board of Education through the superintendent to apply to the commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services for an indoor air quality school construction grant for the Horace W. Porter School, and be it further resolved that the town of Columbia does hereby establish a building committee for the HVAC indoor air quality project at the Horace W. Porter School, and be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen shall authorize to appoint the members of the foregoing building committee, and be it further resolved that the town of Columbia hereby authorizes the Columbia Board of Education to prepare the schematic drawings and outline specifications for the HVAC indoor air quality project at the Horace W. Porter School. And so it's just allowing us to put this in motion. Discussion.
Is this just for the wing, this one, or are we talking the whole school?
Good question.
I don't know. That's why I could not put a dollar amount to this. Right now, we're looking at everything as if we're basically two things. We're fixing the wing, and we're also getting a number for the whole school.
So evaluate the whole school.
Right.
Fix the wing and evaluate if there's.
And why would we need the whole school when they maybe do 2 weeks a year when we'd actually need it?
And I asked that question, and here's what I kind of got from it. Air quality is not affected when temperatures are above X
Right.
in the spring or in the fall. On those days, I did ask the superintendent, tell me how many days a year the temperature in the school is above 85 degrees, and even 85 is warm. Okay. She hasn't gotten me that, but she did say air quality is not limited to just the temperature. There are, and she said this, there are personnel over there, children with respiratory issues, staff with respiratory issues, that if they have an issue, they take it to the Board of Education with the union's backing, and that's fine, because you're looking out for each other. And we are to put in window units now for those classrooms, for those people. we already have 7 or 8 of those in there, and they're not really doing the job.
If you look at it, if there's not that long when it's that hot when they're there, but the mold builds up, it gets humid, and then there's mold, and then you gotta get rid of it. So it isn't just when it's hot. It's,
Indoor, but studies proven that indoor air is typically more unhealthy than outdoor air. It's not like we're in New Haven or Hartford. Open a window, and so I understand there's people with pollen issues and mold issues.
Yeah, I know that you just said indoor air is more healthy than outdoor air.
Is not.
We understand that, open a window.
Yeah.
Now, I have Marie, the superintendent, is here and stuff. Maria, did I say anything wrong? It's not just the heat.
So it's not, so this is a grant that's being offered by, first of all, 150 million or whatever is coming to the state. And this is a beginning of waves of addressing air quality. So we would get a reimbursement if we were to start to do some of this work. In the A wing downstairs, in particular, we've had, at least while I've been here, we've had to do air quality testing 2 times, which requires moving all of the classrooms out of that area and then remediating or cleaning up any mold if there is some mold. So we're chasing the air quality, trying to keep it at a point where it's not destroying the building, which is the primary worry. It's your asset. We don't want the asset to fall apart, which is what we're forever chasing. In addition, as Stephen said, we do have staff and students with health issues that either, one, some people need it cooler based on a whole range of medical issues, but also air quality, meaning what is in the air, whether it is, they measure, when they do air quality, they measure the allergens in the building and out of the building. So they compare both. And our air quality can be problematic. So right now we are monitoring the humidity on a daily basis in the downstairs. So I wouldn't say that the unions go to the Board of Ed, but the unions, doctors will write notes because staff cannot be working in an environment that's unhealthy. So we are obligated to provide that.
And I didn't say the unions go to the board, I said they have union backing.
Absolutely.
Who says they need to do this. And
Yeah,
that's
so
what they're for.
really what the board has been talking about for it's been years of this conversation. We had an extensive study completed in April of 21. So we have a lot of information about what could potentially be completed. Most recently, we talked about ARPA funds with Mark and FIPAC. Our request was A wing and upgrade in electrical. Might be a reasonable place to start. And then I think we have to talk about a capital planning project. So,
right. But before we even get to that point,
yes,
we're not sure we have to
Nope.
upgrade the electrical to the tune of $450,000. We're not sure. We're not sure that we have to do the whole northern side of the school. And there may be ways to do it less expensive than a huge HVAC system, like doing splits like we have here. There's a lot of different variables out there. What we do know is we have to fix A wing.
I get that.
So this that's
As long as this is just addressing A wing,
this is not just addressing, but it's not just addressing A wing. It's not addressing any wing until we work with our consultant and different avenues to find out cost and plan. Right now, if they said you have to make a decision, we're just doing A wing. Okay? I don't have enough information to be able to give you to say we're doing A wing, B, C, and D because it's going to be X amount of dollars and we need it for this and that. I know we have to do A wing. That's good. Please. Maria?
oh, you're looking to me, thank you. I just can't tell where you're looking, Stephen. So the other thing, just to say, really, it's giving me permission to start the process. There's a whole next round of if the town meeting or if it's a referendum, if people will actually support something, and that's to be determined, whatever that is. But right now, it's just about, I have to have the authority to start applying, which is quite a process.
To me, it sounds like it's a good idea to start.
A lot of
at
work
least
within-
assess.
No more than a month then, right?
Yes.
The good news is, the study she talked about. And the fact that the solar on the school, the electrical, they have all this stuff, they just have to dig it out of the files and comb through it and get the right information. We are ahead of many other towns and cities. But we still have to move quickly. So.
Plus this grant came out in September.
Call the vote, Cummings, call the vote. Anybody, else, we good? We're clear on what we're doing here? We're not setting the money down. We're setting a plan in action.
Alright, so we'll see the plan before and we'll vote whether there's a town meeting necessary or not.
Well, you'd have to vote for a town meeting on November 1st and schedule it for November 15th. In order to have it done by December 1st. So we're trying to get all this information all together.
Especially.
Right, or special.
All those in favor of moving forward?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Maria, you're all set. What are you still doing here? Don't do it. Thank you very much.
Thank
okay?
you all very, very much. Good night.
All right,
Thanks, Bev.
all right. That's that.
You're all set.
Leave it,
I can go.
Unless,
I think we're good.
enjoy your company, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Next is new business, ARPA funding project selection. So at this time, Mary, hand on your, and I'm actually gonna give you a minute or two to tell me what you're looking at.
Okay, let me start this way, a background. A year ago, we had a public hearing of which Steve, you moderated and asked for proposals. One of those proposals was, should we consider in the town of Columbia, looking at our stormwater drainage system and our runoff? That's a big element. And as we had discussed, and we have discussed since an element, which I'll get to, that elephant could be a 5 to 10 year project. It could be a multi-million-dollar project. Obviously, with $1.6 million over 2 years, it wasn't going to, I think, meet the criteria. It may meet the criteria of it's an expenditure for the public health and to improve the public health, and it is an expenditure to invest in our water. So, moving forward, LMAC took for Columbia Lake on a project of stormwater runoff and understanding stormwater runoff. And does that impact the lake negatively? And generally speaking, absolutely it does. The research is across the country and across the world. Specific to Columbia Lake, we are starting to see there could possibly be an impact on public health. One of the reasons why I'm here to propose a small bite of the elephant tonight versus going after the whole element. Let's upgrade our stormwater drainage. We don't know what to do. LMAC with the subcommittee that Mark is on, and we've met with Beth Blunt as the Department of Public Health, has gotten to a point where we have to survey and figure out what are the issues with stormwater drainage into the lake. There are pathogens, there are chemicals, there's snow runoff, there's farm runoff. Phosphorus is one of the worst things for the lake. We have increased plant growth now, which we've never seen before. Thank God, all native plant, but it is certainly growing at a more rapid rate. So we're starting to see and have some concerns. And we had cyanobacteria twice in this lake, once measured only for a small amount of time over what could be considered safe. So we know that there are changing conditions in the lake. Cut to the chase. I'm not representing LMAC tonight because we don't meet until next week. But what I would like to suggest is that we include, give or take, my initial research, and Beth Blunt would probably have to support this, is a $50,000 approach to have what I'm calling stormwater management feasibility study, specific to the 2,000 acres that are the wetlands that feed Columbia Lake. Why Columbia Lake? Polluted stormwater drainage from the lake, from that watershed area, can and is a threat to public health. A decline in the quality of Columbia Lake would have a negative social and economic impact for everyone in the town of Columbia. It's not just those who live on the lake, it would be for everyone. Polluted stormwater drainage, over time can and is threatening, sensitive ecosystems. The good news is the Eagles are rebuilding, so we know we've got pretty damn good quality, but we also know that changes are coming. Can we be proactive and say, can we manage this better? And it may not just be change the pipes or put filters in the pipes. It could be some green things such as irrigation or rainwater gardens, those types of things. Our current stormwater drainage system is decades old. It no longer handles the volume and it has no filtering of anything. So you know what goes in the lake is polluted or dirty stormwater. And finally, with climate change and increasing rainfall events, which have resulted in flooding of public and private property, the damage is going to have a negative economic impact. So this investment, give or take, and we have to verify this number, would provide a preliminary assessment, the first bite of the elephant, to say, what do we need to do? And how do we protect this lake from public threats of public health as well as negative economic impacts? So I have written that in a proposal. And we're going to set the board of selectmen.
It's a little bit.
Little bit.
Thank you.
Better than the multi-million-dollar one this year. Certainly, here for questions. Although we do not have Almec support, Mark, I think you would agree that this is the direction we want to go in. We wanted to meet with you, the town engineer, Department of Public Works, and an environmentalist. And we think a civil engineer who's an environmentalist would be able to do this type of a feasibility study and come back to us and say,
And I can get numbers on that and get a proposal from our town engineer. So that we can bring it back to board of selectmen, so it has real numbers and what benchmarks they think they could achieve. Why would you, the reasons for doing this from the engineer point
and
of
it could
view.
also be supported by our limnologist company,
Right.
ESS, which I'm sure does this type of thing, although I haven't reached out.
Also, I was in the meeting today with the CROG and we're trying to get federal state funding for all the small towns that are trying to grapple with the same issue of stormwater management and see if we could have other funding sources. So it's still,
How old is the current system? The current draining, stormwater drainage system, how old is that?
That's a really good question. I have to ask that one. We do know when there are severe water issues, particularly on Lake Road, that the pipes are too small and and our zoning road can't handle that amount of
So it
water.
floods.
Yeah, so we've had some property destruction, we've had flooding of people's backyards and front yards.
So I have a couple of questions and comments and stuff. Invasive species in the lake. Are we treating any this fall? Do we need to?
No,
Excellent.
we have nothing that's invasive in
The lake is reported to be one of the cleanest in Connecticut,
correct.
and I too would like to keep it that way. However, even your little bite starts the tail. You bite the elephant on the tail because that tail is telling me, you know, sooner than later because the inevitable will happen. So I do need numbers on this. We'll look at this. We're not deciding on spending all the money tonight. We're just going through lists and stuff, but
That's what I feel.
I understand. I mean, the lake is a very, now the other question is, when Storm Sandy hit New York and everything, and I have relatives on Long Beach, Long Island, and basically didn't wipe out their house because the water and sewer damage was so high, the insurance said, and it said, we're gonna give you up to where the water line was to repair it all. But the town said, new town ordinance or directive, if you do any new construction, you have to raise up your house 8 feet off the.
Yeah,
Everybody had to put them on pillars.
makes sense.
what is the responsibility of homeowners on the lake should we find that some of their drainage from houses and stuff are going directly piped into the lake?
Good question.
My, as a private citizen, mine is if I'm impacting the lake in a negative way, it should be fixed. And it should be my job. We just put in, example, in 2005, we were told when we rebuilt that we didn't need a new septic system. And I said, that's ridiculous. Why would we not upgrade and protect ourselves in this lake? When they uncovered the septic system, they didn't know how it was working. We should have inspections of our septic systems on, maybe elsewhere too, across the street in the wetlands areas. That is a kind of a different issue, but you're right. To your question of water quality, absolutely, from a clarity point of view, that our lake is one of the most pristine in the state of Connecticut. What is concerning, and we'll have more data in about 3 to 4 weeks, is the amount of phosphorus in this lake.
Now, where does that come from?
Phosphorus comes from stormwater drainage, and that can be farmland, wetland, recreation, industrial. The vast majority around Columbia Lake, I presume, is farmland. Because when you think where the cobs are up on Lake, that whole wetlands area of 70 acres was right down on Downey Road as an example. We say, well, phosphorus from cows and horse manure, animal manure.
How about lawn fertilizer?
Excuse me?
How about lawn fertilizer?
Well, exactly. You're well ahead of me. That's a huge issue that the CLA, and we'll meet Thursday night, is wrestling with. Should we even be using this stuff on the lake? No. And
I haven't used lawn fertilizer in years now, 20.
I can tell you where the greenest parts of the lake are. I can tell you where algae starts every year near those lawns.
Yeah.
Near those.
And it's
So
because people per acre put more phosphorus on their lawns than any farm does.
possibly.
Oh, that's been a stat for.
Well, I'm sure not only that, but the natural filtration from water moving up at the farm.
Well, you also have weeds.
You have a natural filtration.
So in the fall, when the leaves are coming down,
Yeah.
you're gonna leach out phosphorus.
Well, they do. It's almost like they call it a tea-like substance. It looks crappy and it is very phosphorus rich. There are many things. There's stormwater drains, there's fertilizer, there are many things, but a lot of it comes through our stormwater culverts and our stormwater system. So can we do something?
So I appreciate this. I do. Lake is beautiful. I like talking about the lake and everybody else, but without a number to this, it's very tough. However, I am not saying, too bad we should put something on here. No, we'll talk about this whole list. There's things on the list that we may not all agree to anyway. So,
Well, and I'm happy to put some numbers behind that and work with Mark and Beth on. I'll give you one number that I just found out, and I want to go to Gary in the Valley to update it. 1998, when they did this first watershed management plan for Columbia Lake, that then LMAC committee not only did the total phosphorus load, but they said, what would the impact of Columbia Lake be to the tax base of the town of Columbia? So it's not just the residents on the lake, it's the entire town if the lake started to go south. And back then, it represented 21 million. I don't know what percent that was, $21 million of the town's tax base. And I would presume that was based on that each lot on the lake was worth $70,000. Well, I can tell you, each lot on the lake is worth a heck of a lot more than $70,000. That $21 million base could be well above, let alone if anything happened where negatively our tax base was down there, what does that do to the rest of the town? So just.
we could ask Coventry or East Hampton, because both those lakes have deteriorated, and so there's a history there on what it would do to the town. So.
What the cost anything for the assessment? So you're talking about doing an assessment to.
Yeah, so the feasibility study, the assessment, whatever we call it, I just did some preliminary stuff and I researched it online. There's a $25,000 one, there's a $50,000 one, and maybe we wouldn't do all 2,000 acres. We would find the important spots and say, we'll do 10%, 200 acres. So that's where I need to work with Mark and Beth to get this numbers. But Mark alerted me yesterday that this was on the agenda, so I thought, well, we'll go with a small bite. Super. Thank you.
Now we can move to, our list under the same. So if you go to new business, there is a list and tabulation, correct? The first list is what we've already done.
Yeah, what we've done, what's left
You'll
unspent.
see report on the header, it says report period June 21 to October 22. This is a list of what we have done and things that are not yet completed on the right, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
so the balance, the far right column called balance beginning is what's unspent from authorized projects that are in the works.
And then if you need just a description of the things we have done, that's the next page. Rec park facilities, radios, we did a lot of stuff with the fire department. Okay, and then the next page is anticipated projects and costs. We'll go through some of these. We'll go through all of them. Senior center generator associated work. We did budgeted a senior center generator. It's been ordered. We don't know delivery date yet. It's backlogged and stuff. But in talking with Jason, we're gonna need, and Dan, we're gonna need another $13,000 for additional work, propane and electric. And some costs have gone up. So that's there. Replace some sidewalk at the senior center, there's some cracks, lifting and stuff at $6,500. Repoint the masonry at the history place. Water comes down through some of the grouting and mortar stuff, but that's gonna have to be redone. Tennis court rebuild and fencing and any associated work. You see a number there, 120, but that would also allow for the 2 sideways pickleball courts to go on there. So in essence, we would have 3 pickleball courts, one singular, and then 2 on the tennis court that would run sideways, so the lines would not follow up tennis courts when they go the same
Those
direction.
numbers could come down. We still haven't received bids. We're out for our second bid round, third bid round.
We also have the money, the desire for a new pickleball court with fencing and stuff. Should we need a 4th, I guess, or a 2nd, depending how this goes. Fire station re-roof. It's 20 years old and more, it needs some work, $60,000. We have a bid on that. It went out to bid, we have a bid, and $60,000 would cover it. And then the other is construction of DPW office building and construction engineering and all associated work and site improvements. It still chokes me up a little bit. Yeah, you understand that if you've been down to the Department of Public Works building down there now, it's really, there's no even rough comfort type of place. There's really no break room on a snowy day to grab a nice cup of coffee or shut your eyes for, an hour if the break in the storm, or even if we bring people in early to hang out, wait for a storm to hit to get ahead of it. There's no,
It hasn't been upgraded in a long time.
there's no office down there for the Department of Public Works Director. There's no facilities, really. This is not one I really love speaking about. When I was in the military, we all had the same tents and we used the same equipment, so I don't know what the big deal is. But,
Same when I worked in the state, but.
So these are some of the things that have been on there for quite a while. The re-roofing, listen, some of this stuff, do you have that number I asked for about Bev with the our general fund?
No.
we do have a healthy general fund that I hate chipping away at, but it's there for things to continue to get done, should we not move on some of these things for that, so I'm throwing this out there, talk to me about these things. And then will we go to the town for this list, for approval, or just,
Board of Selectmen can approve it. The top three that I'd like to go on, because we have to try to beat winter, is the senior center generator, the repointing of Richard Place, and the fire station roof.
so that's
And
$80,200.
And I don't know if we can get in the sidewalks at the senior center before winter hits. But those are,
So how much money do we have left from the?
we have $812,000
$812,000.
to spend.
By when?
We have to authorize it by 2023 and spend it by 2024,
2024.
and spend by 2026.
Okay, so that's what, minus the 600,000, or that's already been taken out?
No. That's the 600, that's right, what do you?
Well, I know it's 812,000, so I have.
That includes the second installment and money left over from the first one.
Okay, so the 656 is,
Would come out of that 812.
would take, that's what I didn't say that right. But, we don't have a lot left over.
But we don't have a date on delivery of the generator. Does it matter?
Well, I'd like to get the propane tank on and the ground, ready to hook it up. It comes in.
So we have 200,000.
And again, taking care of the fire station, we have leaks and stuff.
That roof
How
is,
come they're removing the solar panels? That's removed and put back?
well, we're evaluating that. We're having a sidewalk coming up. The fire department would rather put the solar panels back on ground mounts. Because right now on the roof, the low dump of the snow lays right in front of the doors. So right when you're pulling out, you just hear boom, and all the snow is there. So it's a bad spot we pick for solar.
I'm all for ground rules.
Any other thoughts, discussion?
So could any of the potential HVAC at the school be part of this? I mean, I know it doesn't, this
Right.
probably wouldn't put a chunk, but that seems to be kind of high priority. Some of these are niceties. I mean, believe me, I understand pickleball and tennis is important recreation as well, but it sounds like we've got potential.
But that's a different grant, right?
That's
It is, but we'd have to come up with 52% of it if they match on 40%.
Right. Can we use this towards a grant or do this have to be?
I'm thinking there is a question on that. So we've been doing nothing but reading, because the whole state's trying to figure this thing out. And there's constant question and answer updates, so I'll get you that.
So we may not be able to use this money.
Correct, might not.
But Chris, and what you say, if, you know, if we have to do something, we can go and try and pull it from the general fund, not necessarily from this, but we still don't have to do the niceties. We can use this money where we deem absolutely necessary and it fits into the system.
So as far as the tennis court rebuild and the pickle court, I mean, would, if you do the rebuild and you make pickleball perpendicular, and would you not necessarily have to do the additional new pickleball court? Or is
You
that
could cut that out.
okay?
And it might not come in at 120. We might be able to get that down. I think that's a worst case, assuming a cement one, and an asphalt one should be less.
Could be absolutely the worst case where it costs us 130, so I
I
just.
know, we don't know.
I just caution saying it might be
Right.
lower than this stuff.
Because you.
We don't know. These are estimates anyway, except for the roof.
That's a solid bid.
It's
It's
a
ready.
solid bid and the repoint
It's a solid bid.
actually it was a tad lower, but there's always contingency of 5% of them. And the senior center generator, because if the generator showed up tomorrow, we're pretty firm on these numbers. That this is, we'll get it.
So it's really the tennis court and the pickleball.
Well, but you're not gonna do them now anyway. We're gonna do them in the spring, so.
Right.
So we need the generator there because that's also
It'll
set her aside from school for.
It'll become a cooling center and an emergency center that It's easier for us to open if we're not doing a town-wide major event. Where, let's say, a section of town, lots of town, we tell them just go to the city center. We staff
Seems like a great idea to do that.
So, can I ask one more question? So on the tennis court rebuild where you would potentially also add 2 pickleball courts, I mean, would it have the lines and all that?
We paint all the lines. They're just different colors.
Right, so it'll be all off so that way, because I do know from what I hear, you know, there are those that, you know, really want the parameters and all that, they want the real court. I mean, I know that.
In Hebron, they have what we're talking about.
Okay.
And people who have played pickleball up there say you get used to it very quick because the lines are very distinguishable from the tennis because it's going a different way and they're distinct different colors.
But the true pickleball is lovely.
Oh, right, I'm just
Well,
asking,
I'm
because
thinking
you may
more
not
of the people who
satisfy
show up for tennis.
certain groups of that.
But it's a problem.
And that-
You think we're doing the right thing and so that's all.
Okay, I'm gonna say we worry about that
Yes.
in February. How about that?
I'm good.
Let's get through the season.
I'm with
So I would like to, do I need to make a motion to pass through these things?
Yes, please.
Great, we'll have a discussion, but I make a motion that we approve the senior center generator associated work, $13,000, the repoint masonry on historic place for $7,200, and the fire station re-roof of the 3 roof planes and the removal of the solar panels and the associated work for $60,000. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, thank you. Opposed? Good. Okay, let's see, update the accounting assistant job description. Motion to approve, I make a motion that, well, first of all, do we have it?
Yeah, it's in,
I got it.
it's right here. It's behind the blue sheet of paper in new business. We just made a few, slight changes.
What? Do you know the changes we've done and added or what?
Yes. What we've done mainly is the position now has been expanded to be a permanent floater for the officers where we need to have some really good training. So Kara, who is now in this position, is being trained to take over for Jen when Jen's out. She can still come over here and do her job of accounts payable, because most of it's on the computer, and bring the paperwork with her. But Jen is also teaching her to be an integral part, so she can actually help me do what Jen does, which is a lot. She's also being trained for land use right now.
Indispensable. I know.
Essential.
See, it's such a worker here.
Please don't make us choose.
If you want to take a vacation, I almost had a hard.
What?
Yeah, we'll do it. $10.
So where does that say that on here?
Does it say?
Provide office assistance and other town departments for project recovery. It's on the second page, the last.
So then.
Gotcha.
Right, that's the main thing. we're doing.
Yeah.
Reconciles, also. No, it's not the same. But every job description that changes, and you give approval and revision. Which is cool.
I make a motion, we approve the updated accounting assistant job description is over for us. Same discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And the next is, I make a motion to change the scheduled November 8th, 2022 regular meeting to November 1st, 2022. Special meeting?
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
becomes a special meeting.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. And the lake is drawing down as we speak. Levels full.
Now, when did they close it?
It's open until we get down to 6 feet down, and then we close it and start raising it back up to
When did they,
Well,
when did we close it?
Yeah, I always wondered when you close.
we close it October 15th on even years and November 1st on odd years. And I talked to Henry, why don't we just pick one date? Because no one can ever remember when.
Why do we do it 2 separate days?
Henry explained to me to give farmers, the people who wanted to work on their lake a head start on the early close year, because it takes a month to get it down. So you actually can't really start working on your stone wall for weeks until the water level's down low enough.
And then until when it's down 6 feet.
Then we start raising it back up again to a certain level.
So isn't a certain time, 2 weeks, you keep it,
No, it might, depending on rain. If it pours rain for the next month, it might take a month and a half to get down.
Why don't you put a note to talk to LMAC, see if they can decide on one date? If they want to.
Okay. It was a long explanation. So I asked.
Don't ask Henry.
good question, good point.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, town administrator's report.
Okay, we have applied for the rural roads grant. That is, really to give us more money for, police coverage. For night and weekends and DUI. So that application is in. The one that's still not available to us, and I brought it up today at our CROG meeting. This grant goes through the CROG, and it's a transportation rural improvement program, which I have in your binder. This is the description of it. It sounds wonderful that it would be a grant through state funds. For projects including roadway signals, bridge structures, safety improvements. Now, here's the problem, 20 feet or greater. None of our, that's talking about drainage. Those are all highway size drains, 20 feet range. Our drains are 3 and 4 feet wide. So the specs are for big cities, towns, and highways. They call it a rural improvement program, but the only road in our entire town that is applicable is Flanders. Because it has to be a rural commuter cut shortcut between towns.
Oh,
So only one road applies. So Andover, Coventry, and Columbia have officially requested that the DOT through the CROG revise the regulations. As of today, they still don't get it and they haven't revised it properly. So this money's available, but not. I don't know. Wanted to bring it to you.
Okay, and the town administrator's report, I know we meant to put on there that Route 66 up in Pine, and they're redoing the lanes as we speak.
Pine or,
I mean, Huntington West. Yeah,
West.
they're redoing them. I went by there today and they gave a guy so I'm giving out a paintbrush for one guy and 8 people were watching, so I'm sure.
I get very careful with it. The guys in the middle of the road, you figured.
Did not notice it when I was.
And then the other
Not
thing
an
was,
issue thing yet.
I have a question, Mark, did we move our little library?
No, it's still to be done. Will be done shortly.
All right, thank you. All right, there's some correspondence in there. Chris, thank you. Did you do the Revolutionary War? How'd that go?
It was a nice event. It was a great showing, nice weather, and it was nice to meet the family of
Webster.
No,
Yeah,
that was,
it was
Brewster.
Brewster and his wife are the ones that basically, came in contact with Tony Story. No, it was a nice event.
Chris, did you notice the shadow box searchers while the event was going on in the back of the cemetery? So are they called shadow boxes?
Letterbox.
Letterbox. So Ingrid's
Oh.
upset that somebody has put a letterbox behind a stone on the wall of our cemetery. So people come from all over to find this letterbox. But she thinks it's inappropriate in a cemetery to have people moving your stones Search for.
I guess people were doing it during the ceremony.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's what alerted her, she asked, why are you here, what are you doing? Explained it to her, now. Now,
It's like, searching for a Pokemon or something?
yes.
Yeah, it's a game.
Geocaching.
Are there, are there
Yeah.
stamps in the box?
It's a
Like
game.
stamp a book?
Find stuff, yeah, probably something like that.
I just wanted
I
to.
mean,
get
it's
you-
kind of harmless, but it's people.
It's probably not.
And they can only do it,
I guess they billable for something, it's a game.
I just- found it.
Did they have any Revolutionary War Minutemen recreating anything? Okay. Yeah, so some other correspondence there, thank you. And now we move to the budget transfers. Um, There's a couple, there's a sizable one in there, contingency, how are we dipping into contingency, maintenance and repairs? What's that one, Mark, you know?
4,000.
And then,
What's what?
Repairs and maintenance, to cover the unbudgeted costs, repairs and funded maintenance.
oh, that was the 4,000 special lines, we had 3 boats break
oh,
from the
wait.
moorings this year,
Yes.
so we thought we could get 2 years out of them. So we have to have the divers go in and swap out all the ropes for the moorings. And it's not just rope, it's special braided rope,
Yeah.
woven and.
So how old are the moorings?
Well, last year we did all the couplings, all the
Yeah.
hardware. Now we have to do the lines.
Is the hardware still good? Did we lose it all?
No. Our lines are great.
Raise that more cost. Triple. Okay, anything else on there? People have a question about contingency, telephone, internet, 650. I make a motion, we authorize transfers in the amount of $6,028 to the items listed here. Any more discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Next is.
The one down.
Make a motion, we authorize refunds in the amount of $183.98. To those listed above. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the bill is.
Is that the correct amount, Steve?
I know, that was funny.
There was,
$83.98.
Because total adjusted is a lot more than $186.
It's,
We're paid with $183. I think that's-
No, it is 183.98, because if you look at each individual overpaid,
Yeah,
that adds up to 183.
it's the last
9,
yeah.
the 66, 52, 63, and 54.
okay, but the 1729 on the tax to adjust it 1729 is not a difference of $52.
well, 1729 to 1792.
No, so
So
it's
you
under.
subtract those.
Absolutely. Okay, so underneath is the adjusted.
It is.
Confusing.
It is.
It's a little confusing. the way
Yeah,
they
let
write
me
it.
read it.
Yeah, that's. Okay, bills. Make a motion, we approve paying the bills in the amount of $62,173.31 for 22-23 regular credit card and big check.
They're buying salt. For the roads.
I think we should be in pretty good shape after this little assault, right?
Yeah, the price is gone way up also.
Yes, too.
Shocking.
I,
Bulky waste is pricey. That's what it is.
I like it in Pittsburgh, they used to use steel cinders from the mills on the road, and all those were black.
Any discussion on the bills? All those in favor of paying the bills? This is going. Audience of citizen. Board member comments?
Well, we used the pavilion on Saturday. That's beautiful, nicely done, except for the sink. I would have been a bigger ticket, but other than that, what a great facility.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I would ask that we all try to spread the word about the Columbia rec thing this weekend.
12 to 2, right?
12 to 2, please spread the word. It looks beautiful up there. People are using it. Let's get people up here to appreciate
Yeah.
all that everybody's done. Okay. Great. Anybody else?
Just had a question about the economic development committee. What's Howard's last name?
Jack,
He said he wants to be a member of it. He owns property in town, but I'm told that he can't. Why can't he be?
I ran that by who did I run it by, either the town attorney or the town clerk.
I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing it anywhere.
But let me get the answer for you again, because I was told because he's a property owner, but you have to be able to. I think he could vote only on property dollar issues, but can't vote in elections because he doesn't live
He's
here.
not a.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not a resident?
He's a resident, he owns property.
But he's not voting on any.
It's a committee.
Yeah.
Let me find out again.
Yeah, I invited him on that and
You want people for economic development, and he's a businessman, he owns property here. I think he should be on a committee.
It makes kind of sense,
Sure.
the economic development committee, that,
I'll check it again, because I don't have the hard answer in front of me.
we're moving slowly, but things make sense. We're starting to bring them up. Yeah, I mean. It's funny because one of the criteria of voting on meetings is you have property here, you pay $1,000, right?
he owns
To
lots.
vote on something that's financial. No,
But he can't vote at the election. He can't be a voter in
No,
Columbia,
no.
but you can vote at town meetings. But, you know,
All right, we're looking with.
yeah, makes sense to me.
He and I are supposed to go visit a restaurant. That is tremendous, see if they want to.
He owns Columbia, just the
We're either,
Kidding or what?
no,
No, me either. Me either, talk to me, I'm ready. I just left.
I think it should be your next job, and you're retired.
we're in the sports bar.
What's for any of
I
that?
know there's a lot of things you can do, but that's another time.
You need
Very
money.
hard time to do this.
All right. It's not a restaurant. Not a restaurant. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to suspend the meeting.
Actually, we don't need executive
I
session.
don't need executive session.
Yeah.
I didn't get as much information as I need. I'll wait to know.
is it the same topic as the last time?
We're making a lot of progress, but there's one sticking point.
I'd be interested in finding out on this meeting.
Oh, well, we could have it at the same time.
It's 30 seconds.
Right.
Bye, Ann.
Wait. Goodbye, Jen.
Okay.
I'll invite Mark to stay. You want, no, yes, we need, no, no. Thank you, Ann. Have a good evening. I'll make it good night.
Always nice to see you. See you Sunday. Bye.
And what time is it?
8:04.
8:04.
Stop recording.
Before you go.
What? And,
Came out at 8:24 out of the day.
yep,
No decision.
motion to adjourn at 8:24 time. All those in favor?
Bye.
It's one.